It's the music.
Good morning, everyone. This meeting is called to order. Mr. Trobman, has anyone signed up for public comment? Thank you very much. Good morning, Ms. Miller.
Good morning, sir.
How are we today?
Very well, thank you.
Oh, that sounds awesome and amazing. Agenda item 3, though, we have no cases to
No
consider.
cases.
All right, let's jump to agenda item 4, tax liability cases. I think we have 2 tax cases on docket 33. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct. The first case is TD-21-009-0421. Commissioner Timmerson,
I agree with staff recommendation.
Commissioner Alvarez,
I agree with staff's recommendation.
and Mr. Chairman.
Agree with staff recommendation.
The second case is TD-21-015-0621. Commissioner Timmerson,
Agree with staff recommendation.
Commissioner Alvarez,
I agree with staff's recommendation.
and Mr.
Agree
Chairman.
with staff recommendation.
Thank you.
No fair housing cases, no fair housing cases on agenda item 5.
That's correct.
All right, agenda item 6, no wage claim cases on docket 33 pulled for additional discussion.
Correct. None pulled. You should have received the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 33.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining wage claim cases on docket 33.
I second the motion except for those cases of which I'm dissenting as reflected on the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 33.
I concur with the chairman's motion except for the cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected in the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 33.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move to agenda item 7, consideration of unemployment insurance cases on docket 33. Please proceed when you're ready.
Case number 2611347, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant provided sworn testimony consistent with statements in her petition to reopen that call lines were busy, which led her to register late for the first hearing. The claimant established good cause for her petition to reopen. With regard to the underlying issue, the parties agree that the claimant was separated when she had when she had to be relieved from an assignment due to a tooth infection. The employer testified that the claimant was not offered another job for over 6 months. The testimony establishes the claimant was separated due to a medically verified illness. Modify the AT, good cause for the claimant's non-appearance, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, MBI.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. As to the good cause issue, the claimant's testimony was unpersuasive because she was inconsistent about the reason for her non-appearance at the first hearing. Thus, the claimant did not establish good cause for missing the hearing. As to the work separation, the claimant voluntarily stopped working due to a toothache in fear of contracting COVID-19. The claimant did not submit any medical documentation to substantiate a need to leave work due to any medical issue. Consequently, the claimant left work voluntarily without good cause connected with the work. We should affirm the AT decision. The claimant did not have good cause for missing the first hearing, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Reverse the AT. Claimant established good cause for AT1, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
All right, we have a majority vote. It's a little different. Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Alvarez voted good cause was established. And the merits vote, it's Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Timmerson voting to disqualify the claimant and protect the employer's account. So the overall decision would be adverse to the claimant.
I would short form the separation?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Case number 2655677, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant was receiving benefits at the time he began working for the employer on this continued claim. He worked 1 day before quitting. The job paid $10 per hour, and the claimant had a maximum wage demand of $13.50. As such, the claimant is not disqualified for benefits under Section 207.045G1 of the Act. Reverse the AT, no voluntary leaving, no overpayment.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant stopped reporting to work due to reportedly feeling unwell. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the employer asked the claimant to furnish a doctor's note before returning to work. The employer never heard from the claimant again. The claimant's job abandonment was voluntarily and without good cause connected with the work. We should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, overpayment, $4,160.
Affirm the AT, voluntary leaving, overpayment.
Ms. Miller, short form dissent.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2658345, Commissioner Timmerson.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. As to the work separation, the claimant left work on approved family leave and extended her leave due to a medical issue. Although her doctor released her to return to work, the claimant did not return to work because she wanted to work from home and told the employer this was her doctor's recommendation. The employer gave the claimant 14 days to submit a doctor's note and ADA medical accommodation form. Moreover, the employer told the claimant she needed to report to work while her accommodation request was pending, or she would be discharged for job abandonment. The claimant failed to communicate with the employer on August 17, 2020, and she did not submit the required documentation within 14 days. The claimant's failure to report to work pending approval of her accommodation request, her failure to communicate with the employer each day she was absent from work, and her failure to submit the required medical documentation within 14 days all constitute job abandonment and voluntary leaving without good cause connected with the work. Thus, the claimant should be disqualified from receiving benefits, and the reimbursing employer should not be billed. As to the availability issue, the claimant was not available for work when she filed the initial claim because she was unduly restricting her availability by being willing to work only from her home. Although the claimant started working a part-time job with very few hours in October 2020, she is still unduly restricting her availability. The availability ineligibility should not have been closed in October and should remain open. So we're modify the appeal tribunal decision, voluntary leaving, reimbursing employer not billed. Claimant is not available for work beginning August 2nd, 2020. Sever the ability issue.
The AT decision should be modified. The claimant was on leave of absence and did not return to work once her leave expired on the recommendation of her physician due to a risk of infection. She was let go by the employer as a result. Since she was absent on the advice of her physician, she was discharged for reasons that did not constitute misconduct connected with the work. On the availability issue, the claimant was able to secure employment within a few months of filing her claim, thereby establishing that her work restrictions were not so severe as to make her unavailable for work. Modify the AT, no misconduct, bill reimbursing employer, available, eligible, sever ability issue.
Modify the AT, voluntary leaving, reimbursing employer not billed. Claimant is available for work, sever the ability issue.
All right, again, we have an unusual majority in that it's split between the two commissioners. On the merits of the case, the claimant's disqualified with Commissioner Timmerson and the chairman. And on the availability issue, the claimant is available for work with the chairman and Commissioner Alvarez. So on the underlying merits, the disqualification is against the claimant.
Ms. Miller, I will short form the job separation.
Thank you, sir. Did you want to short form the availability?
Yes, I'm short form the availability issue, but agree with the chairman on everything else.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Case number 2736301, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. The deadline to appeal fell entirely within the time period that the Commission's electronic systems were overwhelmed with pandemic-related traffic, and parties were unable to access their online accounts to view correspondence or file appeals. Accordingly, the claimant's appeal should be deemed timely. With regard to the reporting issue, the claimant provided sworn testimony that he submitted his work search logs as requested. The time period for submitting work search log also fell within the time frame during which Commission resources were overwhelmed due to the pandemic-related activity. Internet resources and fax lines were not always available. The claimant's job separation, or correction, the claimant's job search was successful, and he began work with one of the listed employers shortly after being interviewed. Reverse the AT, timely claimant appeal, no reporting ineligibility, no overpayment.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. I agree the claimant's appeal is timely. As to the reporting ineligibility, the claimant failed to submit a copy of his work search log when requested to do so for the benefit week of March 1st, 2020 through March 7th, 2020. Consequently, we should modify the appeal tribunal decision, timely claimant appeal, reporting ineligibility from March 1st, 2020 through March 7th, 2020. Overpayment of $521.
Modify the AT, timely claim and appeal, reporting not eligible from March 1st, 2020 through March 7th, 2020, overpayment.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2777847, Commissioner Timmerson.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant quit his job due to concerns about COVID-19 at the workplace. While the claimant provides testimony about having a fever, he also provided testimony that he assumed he had COVID and that he did not seek medical advice from a doctor. Moreover, the claimant's fact-finding statements revealed that he quit because he was scared of getting COVID. In addition, there is no indication that the claimant approached the employer with any concerns he might have had at the workplace. As such, the claimant quit without work-connected good cause, and we should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, overpayment. In the alternative, if my fellow commissioners do not agree, I would also support a vote to find the claimant was separated under qualifying circumstances due to medical issues, and reverse the AT decision, no voluntary leaving, no overpayment, MVI.
The decision should be reversed. No voluntary leaving, no overpayment. The claimant stopped working because he had a fever and submitted his resignation when the employer asked him to return to work while he still had a fever. As the claimant stopped working due to his own personal illness, he should be qualified for benefits due to an MVI. Reverse the AT, no voluntary leaving, no overpayment.
Affirm the AT, voluntary leaving, overpayment.
Your primary vote was,
Yeah, I'm going to agree with the chairman.
yes, sir,
Okay, thank you.
voluntary leaving, overpayment.
Ms. Miller, short form and memo to UI regarding whether the claimant qualifies for PUA benefits.
Yes, sir.
Case number 2798140, Commissioner Timmerson.
The appeal tribunal decision should be modified. The claimant could no longer perform a job due to medical issues. The claimant provided supporting medical documentation to the employer. As such, the claimant quit due to a medically verified illness and should continue to be qualified for benefits. As for the issue of reimbursement, the employer should not be billed. Section 205.0125 of the Act protects an employer's account from being billed if the claimant quit without work-connected good cause. In the case before us, there is no indication that the workplace created the claimant's medical condition. As such, quitting due to that medical condition is a personal reason and not one that is work-connected. Accordingly, for purposes of the reimbursement, the employer's account should not be billed. We should therefore modify the AT decision, no voluntary leaving, reimburse an employer not billed, MVI.
The decision should be affirmed. The claimant was on FMLA for a medical issue. While on FMLA, it became apparent that the claimant would not be able to return to her former position. The claimant kept the employer informed of her ongoing medical issues and expressed her concerns to the employer that she would never be able to perform her old job duties again. Instead of taking the opportunity to discuss the reasonable accommodations as required by law, the claimant's manager instead instructed the claimant to resign, which the claimant did. As the claimant resigned based on her manager's instructions due to the claimant's medical issues, the claimant should remain qualified for benefits. Affirm the AT, no voluntary leaving, MVI, and bill reimbursing employer.
Affirm the AT, no voluntary leaving, bill reimbursing employer.
I'm going to agree with Commissioner Alvarez. Let me hear Commissioner Alvarez's vote again.
I have Commissioner Alvarez as agreeing with the chairman with no voluntary leaving, employer bill.
Billed, okay, short form.
In short form, sir.
Yeah. I thought he said not billed, so.
I'm sorry.
I thought he said not billed, but he said billed.
You want to go with the original vote, Chairman?
No,
Commissioner?
no, we're good, so short form dissent.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Case number 2814989, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant was separated from his assignment on Friday. He called the employer to report for reassignment the next business day, which was Monday. He was told the employer had no work available. The employer was not open during the weekend and did not have staff on duty. While the employer testified that the claimant could have sent an email, the employer's policy specifically requires employees to make a phone call. It was unreasonable for the claimant to be afforded less than a single business day to report for reassignment. Since the claimant reported for reassignment within 1 business day, and he was told no work was available, the claimant was laid off due to a lack of work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The employer advised the claimant of a policy requiring the claimant to contact the employer for a new assignment within 48 hours after an assignment ended, and that failure to do so could result in denial of unemployment benefits. The claimant failed to comply with the employer's policy. Consequently, the claimant quit without good cause connected with the work under Section 207.045H of the Act. Affirm the appeal tribunal decision. Voluntary leaving, no chargeback. Plus, we should send a memo to UIA and OS for an investigation of whether the claimant failed to report earnings on claim certifications.
Affirm the AT, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, memo to investigate potential unreported earnings.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2829042, Commissioner Timmerson.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. While working overseas, the claimant needed to have a dental procedure performed in the United States. Because this dental issue was not a medical emergency, the claimant would have been responsible for his travel costs. However, if the claimant quit or was fired, the employer would cover his travel back to the States. The claimant chose to quit his job while work was still available, so that the employer and not the claimant would pay for his ticket home. Since this reason for quitting was personal and unrelated to the work, we should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
The AT decision should be modified. The claimant needed major dental work, and it could not be performed where his job was stationed in Afghanistan. He therefore had to quit in order to have his tooth repaired in the U.S. He was willing and able to return to work once the dental work was completed. The claimant was also separated due to a medical condition, and he therefore should not be disqualified. Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback due to MBI.
Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, MVI.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Timmerson.
Case number 2854318, Commissioner Timmerson.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The facts are not in dispute. The employer presented the claimant with a new job description, which included duties that the claimant was already performing. Despite the employer instructing the claimant to sign the job description and warning her more than once that refusal to sign would result in termination, the claimant did not sign. Because the claimant refused to follow the employer's reasonable instructions and knew that failure to do so would cost her her job, the claimant mismanaged her position of employment. Accordingly, we should affirm the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback.
The decision should be reversed, no misconduct, chargeback. The employer wanted the claimant to sign a new job description, making her responsible for vehicle and equipment upkeep, as well as adding marketing and branding duties. The claimant expressed her concerns to the employer that the wording would make her legally liable for the faulty rope course or vehicle mishaps. The employer refused to include a disclaimer or any other language that would address the claimant's concerns. Additionally, while the claimant had volunteered to help with the employer's new website, adding branding and marketing duties appeared to be a second full-time role. During discussions involving her reasonable concerns, the employer decided to discharge the claimant. Therefore, since the claimant was expressing reasonable concerns, her actions were not misconduct. Reverse AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Affirm the AT, misconduct, no chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2860149, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision should be reversed. The claimant was required to have his supervisor proofread emails before they were sent to vendors. After his supervisor failed to proofread an email he needed to send, the claimant had a coworker proofread it instead. The employer decided to suspend him for this. While suspended, the claimant forwarded an important email to a coworker about an appointment the employer had regarding water buildup next to the school. He was not aware that this was prohibited from sending such messages while he was suspended. The claimant's actions were clearly in the employer's interest and did not rise to the level of misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant had been instructed not to send emails to vendors without having a supervisor proofread them first. In fact, the claimant had been suspended for this very reason and should have been aware that his job was in jeopardy. Because the claimant failed to follow instructions after prior warnings, he mismanaged his position of employment. We should affirm the AT decision, misconduct.
Reverse the AT, no misconduct.
Short form.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Timmerson.
Case number 2861343, Commissioner Timmerson.
We should grant a rehearing in this case. The appeal hearing was set for July 5th, 2021. A week prior to the hearing, the employer's attorney requested a different hearing date because the employer's business was scheduled to be closed that date for the July 4th holiday. And employer representatives and witnesses were not going to be available to testify. The employer's request was denied. As a result, and to the detriment of the employer, several key employer witnesses were unavailable to testify. Because testimony from these witnesses is relevant and should be considered before we render a decision, the employer gave TWC advance notice of the conflict. We should rehear for the employer's first-hand witnesses.
The AT decision is supportable. The claimant was discharged due to an employee altercation. The claimant's actions were in response to threats made by coworker, but the employer chose to discharge the claimant. The employer had no first-hand testimony to contradict the claimant's testimony. The preponderance of the evidence establishes that the claimant's actions did not rise to the level of misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, charge back.
Rehear.
We will rehear the case.
Case number 2862515, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant worked an assignment for the employer, a temporary help firm with client 1. The claimant was separated from that client, but the employer did not consider the incident to be misconduct and sent him on an assignment with a second client. The claimant was separated from the second client when the assignment ended and not due to any alleged misconduct. The claimant contacted the employer for further work, but the only client with assignments was client 1, who refused to work with the claimant without a doctor's excuse. The absence from months earlier cannot be considered the cause of the claimant's separation, nor can it be considered misconduct when the employer continued employing the claimant and sending him on assignments. The evidence is insufficient to establish misconduct connected with the work. Reverse, no misconduct, no overpayment.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant did not provide documentation to excuse his absences as required by the employer and the employer's client. Thus, the claimant mismanaged his position of employment, and the disqualification and resulting overpayment are appropriate. We should affirm the AT decision, misconduct, overpayment of $608.
Affirm the AT, misconduct, overpayment.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2864758, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision should be reversed. The claimant notified his supervisor that he needed to take a leave of absence to care for his sick mother. Under FMLA rules, once the claimant notified the employer if they need to take leave of absence that may qualify for FMLA, the employer was obligated to determine if the leave was FMLA eligible and notify the claimant that he was eligible for job-protected FMLA leave. They failed to do that. The claimant therefore was forced to voluntarily leave the job to take care of his ill mother. The employer's failure to comply with the law regarding FMLA leave gave the claimant good cause connected with the work to leave the job. Reverse the AT, no voluntary leaving, charge back.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant may have stopped working for a very compelling reason, but his reason was personal in nature and not good cause connected with the work. Thus, we should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Affirm the AT, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez. And that was the last UI case pulled for additional discussion on docket 33. You should have received the UI short form dissent list for docket 33.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 33.
I second the motion except for those cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected on the UI short form dissent list for docket 33.
And I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I'm dissenting, as reflected in the UI short form dissent list for docket 33.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Let's take
Thank you,
a
guys.
brief recess to prepare for the rest of the meeting. Now let's come back with agenda item 8, acknowledgement of gifts and donations.
Good morning. For the record, Callie Eichner, on behalf of the Office of General Counsel. Under relevant legal authority, the Commission must accept gifts and donations with the value of $500 or more in an open meeting. So today we're presenting 2 donations. The first is a donation from Justin Sherburne. It has a value of $16,000. It is a non-exclusive license to the recordings and compositions contained in an album entitled Texas Workforce Commission Hold Music by the recording artist Montopoulos. This album has 8 recordings on it, and the purpose of the donation is to further the lawful objectives of TWC. The second item for today is the donation from Microsoft Corporation. That one has a value of $35,000. It is a donation of funds to support the development of a virtual assistant bot. It's also going to the maintenance of the data warehouse And the data that will be being used is data for adult education and literacy. That's the pilot. And the purpose of this donation is to further the lawful objectives of TWC. So OGC has conducted our review and determined that the donation meets relevant legal requirements. Accordingly, staff recommends acceptance of the donation. I'm available to answer any questions.
Any comments or questions?
Excuse me. Great report. Thank you, Chairman. I do have a comment. First of all, I want to say that I understand and appreciate the gesture behind the music donation. I personally feel that with regard to the music donation, the agency should have a policy not to accept these types of donations. I therefore will abstain from the vote with respect to this particular donation.
Other comments or questions?
I agree with Commissioner Alvarez to a certain extent, not the policy of the agency, but with this particular issue, procedures, making sure we have procedures in place so that if anyone else wants to do this, that we actually have something in place that allows for it to happen. So that's my only comment.
Okay. In light of your abstention, Commissioner, it would be okay if I just made a motion here so that we can.
That's fine, Chairman.
I move we accept donations from Justin Sherburne and Microsoft as discussed by staff.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
I second the motion except for those I second the motion to accept as the donation from Microsoft, but wish to abstain again as I reference the motion as to the music donation.
Okay, I'm a yes on both. You're abstaining on Sherburne and you're for Microsoft. Commissioner
That's correct.
Timmerson?
And I'm a yes on both.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Agenda Item 9, 2021 report on the transition from military service to employment.
Good morning, Chair Daniel, Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Timmerson, Mr. Cerna. I'm Bob Gear, Director of the Texas Veterans Leadership Program with Workforce Division. Texas Labor Code Chapter 302.02 requires the Texas Workforce Commission to submit an annual report on a transition from military service to employment to the Texas Legislature by September 1st. For this year's report, I'm going to highlight a couple of following sections. We talk about the legislation overview, and then we go into our community partners and our workforce boards. And then we have two graphs, two tables that demonstrate the unemployment rate for veterans of all eras and non-veterans. And the first chart captures from 2019, we looked at May of 2019 or 2020 to May 21. We could definitely see the effects of COVID. And then we also took a rolling average of the 12-month period. It is showing that veterans overall have a lower employment rate than the non-veterans. The second graph concentrates on our most hard to serve, our 18 to 24, our Gulf War II era veterans, the ones that are currently getting out of service. We know since 2009 that they've had a very high unemployment rate, and we're talking over 12%. The work that DOD's done, the work that the Department of Labor's done, and of course the Workforce Commission and Veterans Commission with the installations, over time you can see that that has dropped all the way in under 4% for 2017, 2018, and 2019. And of course, that chart does have an uptick for 2020. We covered the rest of the veterans programs and the numbers that Texas Workforce Commission runs. And then finally, at the end of the report, we come to the top 5 transitioning MOSs. They're industry-based certifications and align with the civilian occupations. And of course, number 1 will probably always be number 1, infantrymen and riflemen. They'll always be there. Number 2, automated logistics, material management, acquisition, maintenance management specialists, and a host of others under that for all the branches of service. Wheeled vehicle mechanic is number 3. And then number 4 are healthcare specialists, hospital corpsmen, and aeromedical services. And then the last one covers communication specialists, which has a lot to do in the military now with IT and IT-related fields. Staff is seeking the Commission's approval of this year's annual report for submission to the Texas Legislature. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments.
Comments or questions?
None here, Chairman.
Chairman, a comment. Bob, we continue to appreciate the work that you guys are doing for our veterans, and I had the pleasure of being able to go to 2 We Hire Vet ceremonies this year. Chairman, as you and Commissioner Alvarez, as you know, that's an initiative where we recognize employers that have 10% of their population employees that are veteran-related. And so Suburban Propane in Fort Worth, and then 3 businesses here in Austin, in the Georgetown area. And one was the Texas Department of License and Regulations, a state agency that had over 10% of their employers being veterans. So thank you guys for the work that you're doing day in and day out. And we'll utilize this report in addition to or with the veteran activities that we have ongoing from this office.
Thank you, Commissioner
Thank you.
Timmerson.
Is there a motion?
Yes, sir. I move that we approve the 2021 report on the transition from military service to employment to be submitted in accordance with Section 302.020 of the Texas Labor Code as discussed by staff.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. We're unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is agenda item 10, certifications for metrics users.
I didn't hear you, Mr. Chairman.
Hmm?
I didn't.
Oh, I was calling the next item.
Oh, okay.
You're good.
Thank you, Bob.
This is agenda item 10, certification for metrics users.
Good morning. For the record, Benjamin Holquist with Workforce Development Division. We're presenting a discussion paper on an expansion to the metrics contract that is already in existence. This contract would add the opportunity for 1,250 people to get certifications through the metrics system in over 130 different certification types. And this expansion would cost $1.1 million. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any comments or questions?
None here, Chairman.
Just a quick question. Are these things aligned in with what industry actually needs, the certifications that are out there? Anybody did any homework in regards to these courses or these certifications that we're actually allowing? Does it tie in with industry needs?
These certifications are provided through industry-based. We did not do a specific one-to-one review of each certification, but they are commonly needed certifications within several industries, including the high-tech sector.
Okay. So I think the initiative is a good one, and in the future, as we're going on, lining those up with our high-demand occupations or the board areas, and making sure that the certifications that employers need tie into the certifications that we're actually placing out there. I have reason to think that most of them do, but I don't want to take that for granted. Make sure that we're looking at that.
So this was resulting from action the commission took on June 30th in a work session.
Correct.
But in that work session, we had asked staff to bring back all of the items that we addressed that day in one item, but we've advanced this one ahead of the others. Can you help me understand why we've moved this one out before the others when we really asked for that to be brought all in one package?
Mr. Chairman, I think what we were trying to do with this is not delay in taking advantage of this opportunity. We've already got an existing contract with Metrics. Later under the Executive Director's report, you'll get an update, the Commission will get an update on the status of all of our activity with regard to that Commission instruction, that Commission initiative. We felt that this one in particular, we could advance so that we could begin to provide these services sooner than waiting until we got everything all bundled up and bringing it to the Commission in a couple of weeks. So.
Is there any particular hurry on the metrics end? Is this contract ending or something?
Courtney Arbor, Workforce Division, for the record. We have an existing contract with Metrics, and we were able, through the original scope of work, to expand that to include these certifications, which is part of the reason that we brought this forward first, just to get it out there as quickly as we could, Commissioners.
Okay. So a little later, we're going to learn about the status of the other items that were on the June 30 list.
Yes, sir. Everything.
All right. Are there any additional questions or comments?
None here, Chairman.
None.
Is there a motion?
Chairman, I move that we amend the existing contract with Metrics Learning to add additional training courses and certifications as recommended by staff.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded, and the motion carries. see, this is agenda item 11, pre-apprenticeship and employer engagement, AEL.
Hi, good morning, Chair Daniel, Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Dimmerson, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, Mahalia Baldini with Adult Education and Literacy. Sorry, I couldn't be there in person today. On June 30th, 2021, the Commission held a work session on statewide initiatives and earmarked funding for a series of comprehensive statewide strategies. For the Commission's consideration today are two initiatives proposed to be funded with AEL state leadership funds from budget year 2021. The first initiative in the amount of $500,000 is a pre-apprenticeship bridge program for building trades. Through a request for applications, eligible AEL providers awarded these funds will be required to provide reading and math support along with workforce preparation activities for participants preparing for a registered apprenticeship program in building trades. The second initiative in the amount of $1.2 million is an employer engagement initiative. Grants will be awarded to three eligible AEL providers through an RFA process. Grantees will work with employers to provide workplace literacy activities for eligible employees or employees that are eligible for AEL services. At this time, staff seeks direction on implementing these two initiatives as outlined in your notebook materials. I thank you so much for your time today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any comments or questions?
None here, Chairman.
None.
Is there a motion?
Chairman, I move that we approve using $500,000 of AEL state leadership funds for the pre-apprenticeship bridge program and $1.2 million for the employer engagement program as presented by staff.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. The motion carries. This is
Thank you,
agenda item 12, Ikea Funds. Do we have anything on our agenda?
Yeah, you have anything, Commissioner Alvarez?
I do.
Okay.
So I handed out a discussion paper, and I'd like to the chiefs of staffs and to one for you, Chairman, one for Commissioner Timmerson, particularly for this agenda item. I'll give you an opportunity to read it. We had a brief discussion on this a couple of weeks ago while I was at the meeting via Zoom, and so I was asked to prepare a discussion paper on the remaining balance that we had available. Before I take any make any other comments, I would like an opportunity, Commissioner Demerson, if you'd like to, or Commissioner Daniel, Chairman Daniel, if you'd like to add anything to what I just gave you just now regarding the discussion paper and my plans on the remaining balance of $2.2 million that's available from Ikea Funds.
Let me read this to make sure I'm clear. Mr. Chairman, I'll defer to you, and then I'll have comments unless you're going to.
I have no other comments.
Okay. So my comment, basically, Commissioner Alvarez, I agree with the seventh application that would require an additional $50,000. I do have three initiatives that I'd like to bring forward as well from that standpoint. And if we take action on the item that you have here, it pretty much wipes out that ability. But I'm the ability to do that if the remaining balances are used all towards a pre-apprentice pilot program. But I am in agreement with the fund the seventh and tied applicant would require an additional $50,000 approximate amount. I'm in agreement with that.
Commissioner Demerson, I wouldn't mind listening to what those three initiatives that you have in mind and see if we can negotiate maybe a price for the remaining balance. If I'm not mistaken, I have in front of me the remaining balance, also the top six that were awarded when we did in this initiative. And so at this time, I'd love an opportunity to hear that.
Okay. I want to hear his proposals. Commissioner, do you know, or does somebody know what that seventh application, it just, about 200,000 for it, is that right?
I have it here, Chairman. So the seventh, there was a tie on the last six. There were two ties on number six. And we were short a little funding to award one of those six that was a tie. And so it actually left it with a balance of 1,500. Let me see. I had left over $150,747.
So, just so I can make some intelligent decisions
Yes,
here.
sir.
So you just need another 50,000 to get that to 200,000. That's not your proposal. I'm just trying to
That's
understand
correct.
how the seventh proposal gets funded.
That's correct,
So
sir.
roughly $200,000. Okay.
That's correct, sir. We were short $50,000 to award that tie on number six. So Commissioner Demerson, I would mind listening to the three initiatives you have in mind, and if
Okay.
you have anything you'd like to
Okay,
present
good.
to us.
I'll do that. Let me share this with you guys.
That's okay, do it by memory.
Hey. And I've shared this with the chief of staffs as well, so I think we've passed it out. So my first initiative is dealing with a marketing campaign or marketing video, and this is basically, Texas is the best state in the world for business. Right now, we're quite often known as the best state in the nation to do business, but I'm going to read some of this. Continues to be the best state in the nation for business. However, we want to be the best state in the world for business. And a marketing video or campaign would be an excellent way to further showcase and inform both domestic and international markets about the benefits and resources available in our great state. We had 2 years of not normal activity in the state, and at this moment in time, this provides us with an opportunity to lead, as we usually do. We can shape the discussion and share directly where Texas stands today, what Texas is doing today, and why Texas today should be the choice of location for an employer looking to grow and expand their business. A marketing campaign that highlights the success we've had in Texas and how we are continuing to bring the world's workforce, economic development, and education together would move us closer to that goal of actually marketing Texas as the best state in the world to do business. The issue here, the pandemic has altered the way that folks actually market their various states. In Texas, we've been very creative in our concepts of marketing. Without a general revenue marketing budget, we've been able to do some things in major ways. And so this initiative, I want to push forward for the agency to work with a state economic development membership organization that's actually involved in marketing the state. And this $600,000 that I'm proposing actually would allow them to maybe leverage that or be a starting point for a foundation of activities to move forward. The situation we're dealing in right now where you can't go out to visit as much, it's a new way of doing business, and this is an attempt to make sure that we're marketing and talking about Texas. There was something that came out yesterday, Ray Perryman, I believe, where we slipped to number 4, and that would be nice for some people, but in Texas we don't do even second well. We like to be number 1 in a lot of ways, and I'd love for us to continue with those efforts. But this is an attempt to assist in the marketing of our state that ties in workforce, economic development, and education, and doing that to both domestic and international markets. And so that's expenses to be covered include research, filming, photography, and it's kind of listed down there, video content, and all those other aspects associated with developing a plan and a campaign. This amount, by no way does it get us to a point of a super duper marketing campaign, but it gives us a start, and it allows an organization to look at maybe leveraging opportunities to push some things forward. So we're looking at about $600,000 out of the Ikea funding to utilize that to market Texas or get us there as the best state in the world for doing business. I'll entertain any questions, thoughts, comments.
The only thing I'd like to add, a great initiative. I see that the asking is $600,000.
That's right.
So can I ask Courtney less?
Since you're talking about balances, I just wanted to let you know we're looking over here and doing some math on staff side. We think that there's some adjustments that we want to provide on the numbers reflected here as to balances. So we're just doing some math.
Hold that thought, Mr. Trollman, right there for just a second. Commissioner Demerson, do you have additional proposals?
Yes, I'm going to hit those two.
We're going to take a recess as soon as Commissioner Demerson lays out his proposals so we can get a balance so that staff can have all the time that they need. You guys don't ever get to see my point of view. The frenzy that's occurring over here on that side of the room is more than it usually is. So Commissioner Demerson, if you'd be so kind as to lay out the rest of your proposals. We're not going to cut off debate. I'm going to give a chance to staff to do some math, and then Commissioner Alvarez, you and I can ask all the questions that we have after that.
Great.
Is that acceptable to everybody?
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Second item that we pulled is basically succession planning mentorship matching program. We've talked extensively about the agency and mentoring and providing opportunities for staff to grow. And so in 2017, the State Auditor's Office issued a workforce planning guide for state agencies to manage succession planning and knowledge management. This pandemic has caused a lot of folks to reevaluate the workspace. Some are retiring early, some are leaving the workforce altogether, looking for hybrid type employment opportunities. And this new phase or change in perception of work can have dire consequences if not addressed timely and strategically. The Workforce Commission is a long-standing agency that has a lot of talent, a lot of knowledge by a lot of individuals, long-time employees that have been working for quite some time. And I know Ed and the team are working on changes. They're working on planning and the like. And so this is an initiative that I wanted to push forward to address some of those areas about succession planning and providing opportunities for individuals through mentorship type programs. We'll see that done in the private sector quite often, and people are really raising their game in regards to how they're providing succession planning and mentoring opportunities for staff. It's as simple as someone that may be working in my division that has an opportunity to spend with Ed, or somebody within Chris's division that has opportunity to spend with somebody in Les's division. It allows a senior level manager to maybe deal and interact with someone at a lower level that may aspire to be at those other levels. And so this type of mentoring, especially in light of this pandemic where a lot of things are being done virtually, you tend to lose the culture of the organization. You can if that's not given, or you need to find different ways to make that happen. And I think individuals being able to talk along lines and coming up with a program to do that works. And so I'm looking at proposing up to $250,000 be allocated from this funding source to be used to assist the Texas Workforce Commission in developing a succession mentorship match program to meet and or exceed the parameters mentioned in the State Auditor's Office Workforce Planning Guide for state agencies. Expenses to be covered include supporting the cost, maintenance, and technical support required for the success of the program, as well as the strategy assistance for rollout. So it's basically up to $250,000, allowing Ed and the team to kind of work together to pull together something for a succession plan long after he's gone, long after we're gone. A lot of individuals here, we want to make sure that the agency is standing. And also, this may be utilized as a platform for other workforce systems. It may be the boards and or other state agencies that may take the lead from the Texas Workforce Commission, similar to what we did with the RPI process early on, taking a bold step to do some things that were out of the box thinking. And so this is a succession planning mentorship matching program opportunity. And lastly, I'll start by saying thank you again, and I've said this probably, and then publicly I'll mention it for you guys, the participation that you had with our State Agency Interns Unite program. And so this is a discussion paper on interns, and Chairman Kyle from your office did a phenomenal job. And Commissioner Alvarez, thank you for persevering, even though the technology wasn't there. You bannered through and made it work for us in a big way. So this Texas Interns Unite, I've created this initiative that's really bringing all interns together at the state, and it may be public sector, private sector, nonprofit, county, all the different areas that are in the space of interns, creating a platform or an event for a future pipeline of talent that benefits both future employees and employers as well. Texas Interns Unite will harness the power of interns in Texas working at all levels of industry. This event, likely to be scheduled in early summer of 2022, will bring interns, potential interns, employers together in person and virtually for a 1 or 2 day conference that allows for the beginning stage of even greater things to come. You can imagine having connections with all the interns, the employers dealing in that space, and really with this labor shortage that we're experiencing right now, you're seeing more and more and more attention being given towards internship opportunities, and employers are pulling the trigger even quicker on these intern opportunities. The students at their junior year, they may be making an offer towards them based on internship opportunities, and I think this is something that is the start, the beginning stages of something that will create, and it may be taken on by another agency, another organization or so, but these are the beginning stages of something that I think could be truly big here in Texas. So I'm proposing $50,000 for this initiative to be used towards items such as venue costs for events and the like. And so $600,000 up to $250,000, and then lastly $50,000. Those are the requests that I've laid out: $600,000 up to $250,000 and $50,000. Up to $250,000, yeah. So 600, 250, and 50.
All right. When we come back from this recess, I think we can ask questions I'm on the commission, certainly ask questions of staff. Everything, I think, is laid out pretty well. Let's recess. Let's give staff a chance to get us a hyper-accurate figure on what the remaining balance is. When we come back from that recess, I'll ask staff to tell us what that balance is, and then I'll also ask staff to tell us if there are any additional needs. We're proposing spending all of the money here today. Just make sure there's not anything else that's floating around out there, and then I think we should take action on these 4 things. Does that sound okay with everybody? Right.
I'm okay with that,
We're
Chair.
going to stand in recess. Back in session. Let's hear from staff on what our pending balance is.
Right. Commissioners, Courtney Arbor, Workforce Division, for the record. Wanted to make a quick clarification that the balance after the vote that you took on at the August 3rd meeting, where the project was approved with the 3 boards and members of TWC staff and economic development, which totaled $500,000, brings the new Ikea balance to $1,738,233. So $1,738,233. So what I believe we were hearing today were Commissioner Alvarez, you were laying out some ideas for use of the remaining dollars based on the number of applications that were not funded for the pre-apprenticeship RFA, and we have some logical breakpoints in scoring that I'd be happy to go over with you. And then Commissioner Timmerson, if I understood your points earlier, there were 3 initiatives totaling up to $900,000. 600,000 up to 250, and then 1 for 50. Is that correct? For
That's
a total
correct.
of up to 900. Okay. So if that were funded, we'd have the 1.738233 minus the 9. I'm just talking through the math, or you all can lead with questions, however you'd like to do this.
Courtney, what's that balance at? So you got 1.738 minus 900. What would that leave us? I don't have my calculator.
Let me get my calculator.
Sorry. About
We had-
800,000 or so.
Approximately about 800,000, Courtney.
Yes.
Okay.
$838,233.
$33.
And so, Commissioner Alvarez, if you'd like for me to share a little bit about some of the break points and the scoring, would that be helpful?
I have these in front of me, Courtney, what you gave us.
It would be helpful for me. So there's 24 total applications.
Yes.
One thing I would like to know is, were all the did all the applications score, say, over 50% or something along those lines?
There were 11 that were above 70 points. And let me pull up the email that
Is it a 100-point scale?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So if with 6 additional, beyond what was brought forward for your approval, if another 6 were funded, that would total $760,000 roughly, and those applicants all scored 80 points or higher. With 17 funded at 70 points or higher, the total would be $1.59 million. So an additional
1.59?
Yes.
Is that correct?
So our review shows that 6 scored 80 points or higher, totaling $760,000.
Is that the next 6? So the
Yes.
first 6 were funded.
That's correct.
Then the next 6, taking us to 12 of 24 applications, would be how much?
The 949 plus the 760. If you funded a total of 12, you would be at 949 plus 760. One more time.
$1.706.
$760 additional, past what was previously approved for the RFA, but that would bring you to a total of $1.7 million for this RFA.
So there was originally 1.1 million funded. We need an additional 760, you say?
Yes.
So that's 1.860. Is that right?
1.7 would allow you to fund the 6 that were fundable with the original RFA, and then an additional 6, taking you down to a break point of 80 points. Okay, can you clarify, Ben? I would like Ben Holquist to assist here.
Sure. Ben Holquist, Workforce Division. So yes, it is 760 on top of the 1.1 original amount, so it would be 1.86 million to fund the 12 highest scores.
So an additional 760,000 on top of the 1.1 million gets us to half the class, half of the applicants.
Yes.
All right?
And that 760, if we were going with 6, that's moving it up to 12, then that's within the realm of the 800,000 plus that's remaining, correct?
Sorry, Commissioner, would you mind repeating that?
So if we were looking at the 1.738, that's the starting point. If my initiatives were successful, that's 900,000, which leaves us about 800 and I forget the number that was mentioned, 800,000. And so that's all we have available if my initiatives were successful is 800,000. And the 760 would get us 6 additional. And if we went to 17, that's at 1.5, and so then there's some jockeying that would have to take place because obviously we don't have that much. We only have 800 and something thousand, so, okay.
Hold tight for just a second. So on your succession planning, mentorship, matching, you've obviously identified Ikea funds. Is there a particular reason you identified Ikea funds? Are there other, this seems like something we could do with our agency administrative dollars. This seems like a very legitimate management function that we would do administratively. And I guess my question is there a limitation on administrative funds that we already have available that would prevent us from using those to fully implement your initiative, that we would need these unrestricted Ikea funds to implement this initiative?
The answer is no. If the agency does it and they have the administrative dollars to do it, then we don't need the Ikea funding for that. If the agency does not do it, or it's not important, or they don't have the funding to do it, then we would need the Ikea dollars to do it.
Okay, if you don't mind, Commissioner, Ms. Arbor, this might actually be out of your pay grade, so I'm going to ask Mr. Cerna a question. Could the agency implement Commissioner Demerson's succession planning proposal using administrative dollars that the agency has from other sources?
Yes, sir. We would issue a request for proposals, get responses, and we could identify internal funds, administrative funds.
Mr. Chairman, yes, so if that commitment is there and they actually are in a position to do it, then there's no need for it to come out of Ikea funding. But I want to make sure that that is a fact. And I'll be looking into that seriously.
We will do that in fiscal year 22, which is in a couple of weeks. Sounds like it's a long time off. But fiscal 22 starts in September 1st. I will have our CFO identify funds that we can use. I'll have HR work with staff directors to craft a request for proposal. And we'll go through the normal procurement process to do that.
I'm A-OK.
Okay, so relative to the Ikea funds, I think we can do this unless Mr. Troman just says I can't. I think we should take up your proposal. We should assign this. We should vote on this at some point today. Make this particular action for staff, and then let them do the funding on that. Mr. Cerna sounds pretty certain that this can be done. otherwise. I do think the commission needs to take action on this. So that 250,000 is kind of now available based on Mr. Cerna's assertion here, Ms. Arbor, just so I can do a good job as a commissioner. The Open Meetings Act serves a valuable purpose for the people of Texas in the sense that they can see what their government's doing. I like the sunshine. However, when you're managing a meeting or you have the responsibility for the agency, it's an unwieldy forum for a discussion on topics like this one. So we don't always have we certainly can't discuss among the commissioners ideas that we have except in this format. So Open Meetings Act does its job for the people of Texas. We face some challenges in having, I think, kind of a good discussion about things. So we're going to do our best here today, and I know we're going to get there. I want to make sure I know before I take action on these things, because these are all, I think, all have some merit. I have some additional questions about the marketing video, which is not going to necessarily fall under your portfolio. But are there other items that staff wants to make sure are in this discussion while we're talking about these dollars? Even if it's just a concept, because I feel like I don't want to find out in 2 or 3 weeks that there was a great idea that was just sitting there sort of waiting for something, and we could have discussed it today and at least have known about it and strategized on it. So are you aware of any ideas, concepts, projects that, particularly anything that would solve the middle skills gap, which is a focus right now, or anything else that the Ikea funds would be the perfect solution for?
Commissioners, I am looking around the room at my peers. I am not aware of anything at this time. We've been working on a number of middle skills initiatives, which you referenced earlier, and we've been able to identify allowable uses of funds through TANF, and we owe $1 for everything that we've looked at so far. So I'm not aware of anything that we might want to bring forward to you. Clearly, these are the most flexible dollars that our agency works with. But I haven't heard anything very recently that would make me, would have, that I could bring forward to you right now.
All right. Well, I got you. Back to Commissioner Alvarez's proposal. So after the 12th application, beginning with the 13th application, is that when the scores drop below 70%?
That's correct.
Like, I went to public schools, so 70% for me is passing, but I don't think necessarily here we have passing or failing applications. This is just a number we've selected.
Okay, 12, Chairman, excuse me, 12 is when we drop below 80, and then 70, we're trying to catch the 70 cutoff.
Yeah, the 70 is when it goes, the additional 11 on top of that, so it's the 17 total.
And that was 1.59 million was the price tag on to get to 70 percentile.
Correct.
So 80 is at 12, and then if you add the additional 5, that takes you to the 70th percentile. Okay.
So with the change Commissioner Timmerson referenced and Mr. Cerner discussed, that would leave the balance at just over $1 million for pre-apprenticeship and other projects. Taking the 1.738 and reducing it by, if yours were approved, Commissioner, without the succession planning, you'd be looking at a reduction of 650 from the 1.7, leaving $1,088,233.
So, does anybody have more questions for Ms. Arbor right now? I don't want her to have to stand there awkwardly while I talk about some other stuff. Be available in case there's additional questions. But Commissioner Timmerson, on your marketing video, what are you thinking is the audience for this video?
Actually, the audience would be other employers that are out there looking at making decisions, either both domestically and internationally, keeping the Texas name and brand out there in a big way, especially during this pandemic when you're not able to market with traditional sources and the like.
And so, so on and off in my career, I've done a lot of marketing work. What channels are you envisioning for this video? The budget would suggest social media channels. Are you thinking some sort of direct marketing effort, or is that something you would leave to whoever implements this?
Yeah, in the brief experience that I've had on the marketing side, you go your social media outlets, or you go the venues that are popular and in high demand. But we would leave that up to the experts in that field to determine the best uses of funding towards marketing. If it's publications, if it's internet, if it's whatever the methods for creating that attention, we would leave that up to them to determine.
But your intended audience would be employers who might wish to come to Texas and create more jobs.
That's correct, employers, and with that, you're going to have this site selection community, and you'll have all of those individuals that typically touch a state. There was a time when Texas was not at the top of the list in a lot of ways, and so this would ensure that we're staying there, are one way in addition to what they're doing at the local level as well, but it ensures that we stay there and keep that name out there in a big way, showcasing the best of what we have to offer.
So beyond CEOs, you would also be thinking about various consultants and site selection organizations?
Yeah, site selection organizations, and again, the marketing plan based on what they're determining the audiences are. I mean, that's going to come out of that. Traditionally, you're looking at making sure employers are aware, making sure that consultants are aware, and just getting the word out as best you can from that standpoint. But if there are other avenues that have come up where there's a new way to market or a new audience to market to, then that would be ferreted out through the organization that's hired to do it.
Other questions?
Chairman, the only question I have is, Commissioner Timmerson, great initiatives that you've laid out.
Thank you.
And so I certainly am all in favor of the initiatives. I do have, the only concern I have is, as referenced by the chairman, if there's an opportunity or if there's a guarantee that working closely with Commissioner Demerson's office, we'd get these initiatives rolled out with a funding is available so that we don't tap into the Ikea. The initiatives are good. They're good. Mm-hmm. And so I'm swayed either way to support this. The only thing I do have in mind, I just want to make it clear, as you know, representing the interest of employees, just that the interns get compensated, that we pay them, and I'm sure that's what we have here listed on the discussion paper. And I also want to make sure that we don't cause any confusion with what we already have in place. The internship challenge that has lied under your office has been very successful. And it's a true testament to the good work that you've done, especially what we acknowledged last week with the help of your interns. I thought they did a great job, and I appreciate the fact that you're acknowledging not just here at the agency, but all state agencies and the interns that are involved in the daily operation of our agency. They serve a value, and I see a value in all this. I also am very concerned with how we market the agency. Anything to improve what we currently have is always good. It's always, you can always improve on what we have, and that goes for everything that we do. And so with these, videos, I looked at, I would just ask that we be strategic like you're talking about. In some respect, it looks like there would be some work in collaboration with the Office of Economic Development, if I'm not mistaken, the way I read it here. And so anytime we can work with our counterparts to improve our messaging, I think there's a value there. So what you've laid out is good. I would like to see these funded, whether it's through the Ikea money or with money that we have currently within the agency.
Thank you, Commissioner Alvarez. And of course, paid internships are very important, and we'll take that to heart as we're promoting. Employers are out there really hungry for these interns, and we'll take all of that into consideration as well.
And Commissioner, I know you've put a lot of work into this, so good work.
On the marketing video, are you proposing that we would maintain our direct editorial control with the statewide economic development organization?
No, my thoughts are really for us to get out of the business in that sense, and basically these are IKEA dollars, and that the Workforce Commission would actually look at a statewide membership organization such as the Texas Economic Development Corporation or the Texas Economic Development Council. These organizations are involved in economic development, and they're the marketing arm. I think the corporation even more so, the marketing arm for the state of Texas. And so there would be a handoff to that organization to procure services for the marketing video and the like, and pretty much allowing them to run. We would be involved. Our offices would always have an opportunity to be involved, as we always are on the workforce side. They'll be showcasing the best of workforce economic development and education, but let them take care of business from that standpoint. That's my thought behind this.
Yeah, so I mean, the concept is intriguing to me. I don't know that I would be entirely comfortable to just hand off the money and let them take the ball and run with it. Both organizations that you speak of have exceptional leadership, and I certainly have confidence that they're representing Texas very well. I don't know that we would want to be in the day-to-day planning of that. I agree with you there. I think we would just want some kind of final approval for the final product before it goes out. I mean, anytime before, by the time they rough it out, anytime before color correction, you can make edits fairly inexpensively in post-production. So I would just want to know that at some point somebody would come to us and show us a rough cut and say, okay, this is what's going out, yes or no.
Yeah, I think that's a good observation, and that's something that the contract team could write into the contract, making sure that we're tied in so that you don't have something that's produced and you look at it and there's nothing tied to workforce from that standpoint. So that's a good point, and one that should be written into whatever contractual obligation we take.
So the 600,000, are you intending that to be a matching award? In other words, they would need to match that dollar for dollar?
Yeah, not a need that they would have to do that. I would strongly suggest that, but not to the point I don't want to tie them down to you have to match it before it goes out. I think it's a good starting point, and I would try to leverage it if I were the organizations. But they may leverage it up to 200,000 to 300,000, and they may over leverage it as well. So I don't want to put parameters around that.
How are you envisioning making the dollars available? Obviously, we have more than one statewide economic development organization. Is this a competitive process you're thinking about?
No, I was going to pretty much, my thoughts are the staff dealing with it and making a decision from that standpoint. I would let them look at the organizations. There may be some organizations that, there's two that I mentioned, and that's only two that I'm aware of. One may not want to do it. One may just, be the one to do it. So I think by default that you may find the answer there.
Well, I think you are right about that. I sat on the board of the Texas Economic Development Corporation. I have some experience over the last 20 years or so with Texas Economic Development Council. I think that the Texas Association of Business has shown an interest in this area over the last several months. I think there are some exceptional statewide organizations that are doing good work out there. I'm not opposed to us sort of directing the money to the one that we think could do the best job. I think that, I think there's sort of strengths to any of the groups that we've been talking about. I think in terms of an organization who's solely dedicated to marketing the state, that would be the TXEDC, the Economic Development Corporation, in the sense that that's sort of how their enacting statute lays them out, and that seems to be their purpose. You know, so that makes a lot of sense. Can staff make a free-form decision like that, or would they have to do it on a competitive process?
That's one of the things that I've asked Les, and we'll have to look into that.
Les Trotman. Yeah, we were just discussing that we would look at different options, including whether or not we have on the horizon an opportunity to do a procurement already for other projects that we would just fold this into, or whether or not the pandemic relief that the governor has offered would offer us the opportunity to direct contracts. So those are a couple of the options we would be analyzing.
All right, Mr. Chairman, with you know, and I'm not sure if, you know, you've laid out, I know those organizations that you mentioned, I've been members of all of those as well. The corporation is the marketing arm for the state, and I probably would be best fit. I don't think I'd want to go through an RFP process to determine that. I think it's staff can't make a decision without going through an RFP process. I would almost name that entity in this proposal, but I was given it the opportunity to look at it both ways. But I don't want to go through an RFP process.
Yeah, I mean, given the nature of and the source of the Ikea funds, if we wanted to name an entity today, this commission, I think, has the power to do that. It's just sort of a sense of how we want to, the perception of that, I think.
Yeah, I think that's correct, that we could certainly direct funds. It's, you know, it's a gift, a donation that's coming in. It's a matter of how you would want to afford the opportunities for other potential partners.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think, you know, with that being addressed, I think if we move the motion forward with the ability for staff to circle back with the best process for the allocation of funds, if that's we're able to do it by going direct, or if they see that there's an RFP process. I think this is different in a sense where what you'd be asking for would be somewhat a different RFP. It shouldn't take that long, or the process shouldn't be outside of the normal days that are allocated for an RFP. I don't think it should drag on or anything. It sounds like it's a pretty simple ask.
First off, nothing is simple. I mean that half tongue-in-cheek. I do agree, Commissioner Timmerson. If the commission directs us to use to identify a mechanism for using this $600,000 for this purpose, and then we come back to the commission, say in a week, with alternatives that would be the most expeditious. I did hear part of the conversation talking about us having sort of a right of last review, which would imply that there would be some contract or some grant terms if it were a grant. So we'll have to keep that in mind, because the more flexible we get with awarding the funds, then we need to make sure that we don't lose any of the requirements that I heard in conversation at the dais about, you know, right of final review, things like that.
Yeah.
So this would give us time, instead of trying to scramble very quickly here, this would give us time a week to come back. If you're inclined to do that, I know that the chairman expressed earlier, I believe I heard a desire to have a decision made on all the Ikea funds in this meeting. I don't want to delay that, but it'd give us a good opportunity to come back with some alternatives on how to do these funds.
Yeah, I would want to definitely take action on the funding, and then the mechanisms for doing it. Then we take action on that when it comes. But I wouldn't want to delay the actual decision on the allocation of funds.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
None here, Chairman. Except, so again, I appreciate the fact that Commissioner Demerson has rolled out 3 initiatives that he's very passionate about, and I feel that there's a need on all of these to be addressed, whether it's through the Ikea funding here presented today, or a mechanism as referenced by our executive director on how we could fund these. I think these are good initiatives. I'd also like to remind staff that when we rolled out these initiatives in the first place, when we talked to general counsel and staff when they worked on this, to keep in mind that we got these initiatives approved by the folks that represented IKEA at the same time. And we put a lot of thought into the initiatives that we rolled out. We did have a remaining balance, and I appreciate that. And I think we were given some type of an opportunity here to be a little bit more creative. With that, Commissioner Demerson has displayed that. My only ask today is if we have any remaining funding and if we can find a mechanism to support his and approved by my fellow commissioners, I'd like to continue to award, and I agree with Chairman Daniel about talking about the top in the 70 percentile that did well. We would be able to fund additional 12 applicants. And again, the pre-apprenticeship program, the RFA 32021-00165, keep in mind that was part of the original plan when we discussed that with the folks with IKEA. So all I'm asking here, if we take action for some leniency to actually fund some additional boards that are from all different parts of the state, certainly I would be in favor of that. That's the only comment that I have.
Yeah, no other questions.
We need to get some motions so we can take some action here.
So Mr. Chairman, so Commissioner Alvarez, I'll move on the items that I have here, and then because I think what we've talked about is any remaining funds may deal with what you're talking about. And so with that, I'd like to move that we allocate $600,000 towards the best state in the world for business marketing campaign, marketing plan, marketing video to be done utilizing the IKEA funding source towards the development of such a plan. And in that motion, I also want to have the Workforce Commission would implement the best structure method for working with the statewide economic development membership organization for the development of a marketing plan campaign that could be used at the state and local level.
So again, I'm a little confused. Are we asking that that money be coming out of the IKEA funding?
IKEA funding, that's correct.
Would it be appropriate at this time to say with the additional funding or any additional funding that's left over would fund some of the boards that didn't get funded?
Yeah, I think that's going to come at the end of the second initiative that I'll mention, and then.
How do you want to handle this, Chairman?
We can do this one motion at a time. Let me summarize what I've heard and see if we can bring all this together. We can make the motions individually, but I just want to make sure we're all tracking on the same page. We have a commitment from Mr. Cerna that the $250,000 for the succession planning can come from other sources. So we're going to take action on that at the end, and we're going to have staff locate a source of funding for that. So that leaves a $600,000 proposal from Commissioner Demerson and a $50,000 proposal from Commissioner Demerson. An additional $760,000 roughly, Commissioner Alvarez gets additional pre-apprenticeship applications funded through half of the pool. It funds an additional 6 based on what's there. The next logical break is at 17 or at the 17th application, because that goes to the 70th percentile. But it takes another $800,000 to get the next 5. Yeah. that's right. So we can get 6 for 760,000-ish, roughly. That gets us through half the pool. If we want to go to the 70th percentile, we need another 8. So we have more wishes than we have money here. So we've got to make some decisions. So if we funded Commissioner Dimmerson's video project at his requested amount, 600,000, and we put money available to get us through half the applicants, that takes us to like 1.3 million, at least about 400, a little under 400,000, still in an IKEA balance. The other way we could do this is if we're in agreement that 600,000 is the right amount for Commissioner Dimmerson's video project. I don't know. I mean, 600,000 can buy a lot or a little, just depends on what kind of video you make and how you do it. I could do the project for 100,000. I could do the project for 2 million. It just depends on how I wanted to shoot it and what we want to do with it, right? If we funded it at 600,000 and we funded and I hope we fund the internship, Interns Unite. I like that one. If we funded it at 50 and we funded the other at 650, we could just direct that the rest of the money go to fund applications till the money runs out. But you're going to hit a weird break point if you do that. You will get past the 80th percentile. You won't get all the way to all the 70th percentile. And I don't know the breakdowns between 80 and 70. I don't know who's at 79, 78, et cetera. So, it makes sense to me if we're trying to get the most done here, sort of the most kind of get the most number of initiatives done. You know, I'd almost say we at least take the bite to get half of the pre-apprenticeships done. That's 760 odd thousand, and then let's say that we like the video, it gets funded at 600,000. That's 1.3, 50,000 for the interns, which I like. You're still going to have a balance, and I could be comfortable walking away with the balance. But Commissioner Alvarez, this is your proposal, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. These are the things I'm hearing, and this seems like a logical kind of way to allocate the funds and make sure that we're helping as many people kind of in different areas that we can. So that's how I heard it and kind of processed it in my own mental process here. But you probably need to be very comfortable with kind of how this gets laid out and how this gets executed.
So I understand exactly what you've laid out. And so basically, 600,000, 50,000, and then if we were going up to 12, whatever is remaining, 760,000 funds that. We're placing an additional 250,000 back on the table. And so it's either we go with the 12 or we go with until the money's exhausted. So that's decide up to 70% and whatever that breakdown is, but once the money's exhausted, then it's exhausted. And so Commissioner Alvarez, that gets you to the point if you want the 12, then 760,000 for that, and then anything remaining, if we're taking that, then it funds other initiatives.
So I agree with the chairman. We'll take these initiatives one by one. So if you want to restate your motion again, Chairman, okay. Commissioner Dimmerson.
My motion was to move that we allocate up to $600,000 from the IKEA funding source to be used towards the development of a marketing campaign or plan that will be utilized by local and state organizations as they showcase what Texas has to offer in addition to their local and or regional outreach efforts. In that, the Workforce Commission would implement the best structure method for working with the statewide economic development membership organization for the development of a marketing plan / campaign that could be used at the state and local level.
I'll second that.
That's been moved and seconded. So, Commissioners, is it your intent that in whatever mechanism we select that we would retain the right of final approval for the product that would come out?
That's correct.
Okay. Let's vote. Commissioner Alvarez.
So I still, so on.
You want to lay them all out?
Yeah, I want to lay them all out.
All right,
for you.
next motion, please.
Okay, so the next motion, I move that we allocate up to $50,000 to be allocated from the Ikea funding source to be used towards items such as venue costs for the event, marketing, talent costs, website design, social media, and travel expenses towards a platform that allows us to bring Texas interns together at the state level.
I'll second that.
All right. Let's get your motion on the table also.
Chairman, I move that we fund additional applications 6 through 12 at additional $759,253, including the $150,747 balance from the RFA.
A second?
All right. Any additional discussion?
None here, Chairman.
None.
All right. Commissioner Timmerson, would you also move for your succession planning, but noting that staff has an alternative source of funding for that?
Yes, so I move that we proposing up to $250,000. And Mr. Chairman, before I make the motion, if staff's already looking at doing that, do we really, I mean.
We need to take action on it, so it's a commission action
have
that
any
this is, we don't need to do that?
Yeah.
Well, that just became the highlight of my day.
That's
Thank you,
right.
Commissioner
Mhm.
Timmerson.
Thank you.
All right, so we have three motions on the table. Commissioner Demerson, $600,000 for the video, $50,000 for the interns. Commissioner Alvarez, you have a motion that's been seconded to spend approximately $760,000 in addition to the $1.1 million that has already been allocated, including the balance left in the RFA to fund through the 12th application. Did I characterize that correctly?
That's correct.
Correct.
Is there any objection to any of these motions?
None here, Chairman.
None.
Hearing no objection, all three motions pass. Statewide initiatives, agenda item 13.
We have nothing on that.
Agenda item 14, COVID report.
We have nothing on that.
Board nominations, agenda item 15.
Yes, sir, we do.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, Shanta Williams with the Workforce Development Division. And before you for consideration are Workforce Board nominations for Workforce Solutions, Brazos Valley, Middle Rio Grande, and Coastal Bend. I'm here to answer any questions that you have. Staff recommends that all nominees be approved.
Comments or questions?
None here, Chairman.
My only comment, is that Shanta we see, or is that? I'm not
Yes.
sure. Okay.
Is there a motion?
Chairman, I move that we approve the board nominees for Brazos Valley, Middle Rio Grande, and the Coastal Bend.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, motion carries.
Thank you.
I'm showing we do not have a legislative report today.
No, sir, we do
Yep.
not.
So let's move to the Executive Director's report. Mr. Cerna.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we'd like to provide you a brief update on staff's activities with regard to the Middle Skills Initiative that the Commission established here recently. All we want to do is do this on a regular basis. This is just an update on the activities, and since this is our first one, I'll have two individuals, Courtney Arbor and Mary York, come up and present our status. And then in the future, we'll have one or the other or another staff member present just our status.
Good morning, Commissioners. Again, Courtney Arbor for the record. A slide is on the screen that is visible to you and the audience that will accompany what we wanted to share with you today. Mary and I have been working with a number of agency staff and Mr. Cerna and Mr. Thompson to kind of get our arms around the topic of middle skills and some of the things that we do and can do to help end the middle skills gap as we've been charged with doing. As you know, 52% of U.S. jobs require skills training beyond high school level, but less than a 4-year degree. But a study, a publication by the National Skills Coalition in 2020 says that only 43% of workers have that level of training. So this gap, as you all discussed in a recent meeting, really threatens our ability to keep creating jobs and be the strong state that we are. As we continue to lead, in having a strong industry, we've acknowledged that there are a lot of things that TWC already provides and the Workforce Solutions System already does provide to support middle skills workers. We have a network of more than 180 Workforce Solutions offices, more than 60 providers of apprenticeship and adult education and literacy. Programs like Voc Rehab are in place in multiple offices around the state, and much of what they do, whether it's labeled this way or not, is intended to help with these highly skilled, middle skill type positions. So staff first wanted to take an opportunity to try to define this gap that we are looking at. As I mentioned earlier, middle skills occupations are defined as those jobs that require more than a high school diploma or equivalent, but less than a 4-year degree. This might mean successful of an associate degree, some other post-secondary award, some college, but without the degree. On-the-job training programs, apprenticeships fall in this category very often, and then long-term, moderate, or short-term on-the-job training. We looked at the data, and about 400 of the 876 occupations in the SOC system, as per the 2018 report, meet this definition. And as of August, there are 217,000 open middle skills jobs in work in Texas. So let me just briefly, before handing off to Mary, I just wanted to let you know that we did have a lot of thought about how this might be defined, how we can, the data we have on hand and at our fingertips to take a steady and ongoing look at what these middle skills look like. So Mary will talk a little bit about some of the existing expertise and resources we have.
Thanks, Courtney. Mary York, Office of Employer Initiatives. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Timmerson. In terms of existing expertise and resources, you all know that our entire workforce system is laser focused on making connections between, employers and job seekers, providing training where appropriate, and as Courtney mentioned, a lot of the work that we do already touches middle skill occupations. So some information and resources are developed or provided to build awareness and provide direction. In other cases, direct services such as training are provided, or case management or support services. And some of the things that we do already include our labor market and career information tools, Work in Texas, several of our training programs. Our local workforce boards are highly involved, again, through occupational training, on-the-job training, or subsidized employment. And then certainly vocational rehabilitation plays a critical role in upskilling and providing educational resources to their clients. And then we also, more recently have added metrics online, and we also have the Texas Internship Challenge. But as we're looking forward and looking specifically at those roughly 400 occupations, what we want to do as an agency, across the agency, is begin to look at kind of everything that we do through a middle skills lens and see how what we're doing is really benefiting employers and job seekers that might be looking for their next career, and how we can begin to close that gap or end that gap through either existing services or through the implementation of some new programs. Because we realize that the future of our Texas economy depends on making those connections. So as we started to look at how we were going to strategize, we broke it into 4 kind of buckets, categories. Those being career information, career preparedness, career connection, and career progression. And we made a very deliberate choice to use the term career because these are more than jobs to these individuals. This provides, their pathway, their career to support their families and be productive in their communities.
Okay. I'll highlight the first couple of strategy areas that Mary was referencing, and the slide that you're looking at will help with this. Career information is, we think, probably one of the most common ways that we impact the state through our labor market information and the many offices we have and the job search assistance that people receive and the help that employers have in understanding what the workforce in their areas look like. And so as staff, we're looking at a number of upgrades to existing systems and processes or improvements where we can really call out these jobs and provide career information specific to these so that we can begin to narrow this gap. You all are familiar with all of the labor market tools that are available with TWC. We've been looking at some of those, and as those are refreshed, that will be done in a way that calls out some of these occupations specifically. Jobs Y'all is a good example. When the refresh takes place in the next few months for Jobs Y'all, some of these middle skills jobs will be in focus. And Texas Career Check and Texas Reality Check are other LMI tools that through Jobs Y'all, young people are pointed to learn more about these middle skill jobs when they're doing career exploration. The virtual reality is another piece that you all have shown interest in recently. We have the workforce education specialist, Commissioner Alvarez, who will be receiving virtual reality goggles to use with the youth for their career exploration. The Voc Rehab program here at TWC is also planning a purchase of some of this software and goggles to work when working with customers through career exploration to really give them a true look at what that looks like. And middle skills will certainly be a part of that. We have offices around the state, as both Mary and I have mentioned, and what we will be asking is that grantees who have orientations for different programs or just introductions to services also begin to pull from these listings of middle skills jobs to highlight that for the attendees so that they can see what is available to them and how to get help from that office in connecting to those jobs. Career pathways is something that the tri-agency legislation has encouraged us to look at, and you all have shown a lot of interest in that in the middle skills discussion. We're working with our tri-agency partners to determine how best to roll this out, but there's a lot of interest among us and you in showing a visualization for what the pathways look like in different industries. And so we have that on the short list of projects to define and bring forward to you to allow the young and old to be able to look at an industry and see the different rungs on the ladder within that industry or the paths that they can take and the educational requirements along the way. Informational campaigns, you talked this morning about some marketing. We know that as an agency and at the grantee level, we can have a very focused effort on calling out these jobs in our social media and our TV spots or whatever the local offices are using to bring awareness. Career information is the second category. We have a number of funding streams that you all are very familiar with, the statewide dollars, that staff will use this data or present you with the data so that we can make recommendations for specific training and other initiatives with specific services provided to try to boost the number of people who are trained in specific jobs. I know that we've heard you talk a lot about manufacturing and IT and healthcare among many other industries, so the statewide dollars will be very helpful. Middle skills programs such as apprenticeship is going strong at the Workforce Commission. As you know, we have millions of dollars at any given time where we're really focused on apprenticeship, JET being another. We can, in our procurement of dollars in these and other programs, in our scoring or in our language in the statements of work, add emphasis to certain jobs that we find or occupations that we would like to see focused efforts on. The eligible training provider lists that are maintained at the local level, we have identified a way to take those lists and compare it to the jobs that are in work in Texas by region to see where we might have a shortage of the number of providers in an area that are training for specific occupations. And we'll begin to do a cross-match of those annually and then alert the board in that area so that they can increase outreach to providers to fill those gaps if we don't have enough training available. And then focused outreach, all of the different arms of the agency that conduct outreach in one way or another will begin to add this to their lists of information to share to make sure that we're bringing awareness. And we'll talk with our multiple grantees, particularly our boards, adult ed and apprenticeship, to the degree that we can about making this part of their discussions.
So the next category, career connection, maybe there's somebody who would disagree, but I think the most important role that we play is making those connections between employers and job seekers. Unfortunately, when we have a gap like we're seeing right now, neither the employers are winning nor are our job seekers, our Texans winning. So that's really the whole purpose, right, of this initiative is to bring those two together. And we have some existing tools that we can use to make that happen. But I think it's really going to be taking it to a whole nother level, working with employers to really provide the targeted assistance that they need. And that can continue through job fairs, maybe some job fairs that are specifically focused on middle skill occupations, and helping those employers come to the table, understand that there are resources available to them, as well as providing some additional job matching and then recruitment of individuals into the system to help them understand what Texas workforce system can do to help prepare them for some of these existing job opportunities. We want to work on an enhanced supply-demand analysis to really not just look at what the gap that we have right now, but look at projections for what careers are going to be in demand 5-10 years from now. And we have some fantastic folks on the team that are ready to work on that and do that data analysis piece to help us ensure that we're not relevant at the moment. This initiative is relevant as we move forward. And certainly some of the specific programs that we have as part of our toolkit, as Courtney was referencing, for instance, JET, that really is talking about sort of the employers or the employees of the future and preparing them and having them ready. As Courtney mentioned, collaborations I think are going to be key as part of this. We will be working with the Higher Education Coordinating Board on a re-engagement portal to ensure that all of the individuals that are moving through their system have information on educational opportunities, labor market tools, and work in Texas. We're going to be also promoting those middle skill internships and ensuring that internship has an important role in the career connection piece. And then lastly, career progression. And I'm going to skip around on the order on that. So we have this fantastic tool, Skills Development Fund. I think everybody agrees it is a premier tool for training your incumbent workers and upskilling them to other careers within your business, as well as training new employees for your business. And I think that we have some potential to leverage it further, and we can adjust program parameters maybe as needed to further incentivize training through that program for middle skill occupations. So I think there's some great opportunities there. And then along with that upskilling, we should continue to leverage metrics learning and figure out additional ways to outreach that platform so people are receiving the skills training that they need. We also have transitioning workers, and we want to make sure that we're fully targeting those individuals, looking at career pathways and transition visualization tools to provide them with ways to navigate paths to the next level jobs and higher paying and higher growth middle skill jobs. So, that's definitely something that we will be exploring and sharing more information on. So with that, I think that those were our updates for today, and we are certainly open to any questions that the commission may have.
Any comments or questions?
Chairman, I have a question for both Courtney and Mary. One, Courtney, one thing that we've noticed when people are interested in the apprenticeship programs around the state of Texas, there's not one website that actually has all the schools from around the state of Texas. Not even the Department of Labor has something that's comprehensive. And we understand, is there an opportunity for us to include that on our website, or if somebody could help us establish where all these schools are? We've had multiple folks when we talk about apprenticeships say, is there one in the Gulf Coast area? And it would be easy for us to say, if you could just go to our website, we have one here and all that. So it's unfortunate, but not even the Department of Labor has that. And I know that that's something they'll be working on, but if maybe you could help me with that. For Mary, I think in the last couple of months we've discussed how we could promote some of the great things that this agency does, and I agree with you. For those individuals that have been incarcerated, I referenced to staff some time back that I'd like to see literature, you working closely with the boards, to ensure that those prisons behind or in various board areas have the adequate information. As we continue to travel this great state of ours, many of the folks are not aware of these perks. Just yesterday we met with somebody, an employer who is looking at electricians. They're interested in hiring individuals that are incarcerated, but the messaging doesn't get out that we provide the fidelity bonding and the tax credits. And so it's kind of like the commissioners are having to tell these folks that. And so I love what you're saying. I think there's a value in the presentation that both of you laid out. Just some minor tweaks. One of them would be if we could somehow establish some type of website or something that would gear applicants or anyone interested in the apprenticeship programs to actually make contact with them from around the state, if it's in Houston and all that. Because we know them, but not everybody does. And then the other thing would be the promotion or the encouraging of our boards to be a little bit more proactive when it comes to some of these populations that are underserved. The folks in public housing, Courtney, your folks do a really good job with those individuals that are farm workers. That's good. And so I appreciate that. And then, of course, always having the literature in both English and Spanish, and in some cases Vietnamese in the Houston area. So other than that, great report. I think we're on track. We had an opportunity to visit with the Commissioner of Higher Ed, Commissioner Keller. I just want to make sure that what we do is in line with the tri-agency report. Middle skills, highly skilled, regardless of how you want to word that. I think it's important for people to know that we have a tool there, this bridge, and a lot of people don't know that. I don't understand. Even his people don't know that. And I also want to make it clear that industry needs to be a part of those discussions when we talk about the tri-agency. For anyone to even acknowledge that industry doesn't play a role in what takes place between K through 12 and post-secondary is mistaken. We handle folks that are, the pandemic certainly educated me on one thing, and that is that a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid could receive unemployment insurance benefits. So yeah, we are in that world. And so appreciate what you've laid out. I think what you've laid out here is encouraging to know that the information and the great work that this agency does is going to be distributed around the state. And so I congratulate both of you on the report.
Three quick points. Thanks for the presentation. I think eliminating the middle skills gap is very, very, very important. So on the first career information, middle skill jobs by region, as a commissioner representing employers, those jobs are employers that have jobs available. And I can't overemphasize the need to outreach to really get the message out that we have jobs available, because we're putting together programs and processes in place that you get this skill, you get this certification, you can actually have that job. And so we get to the point where you don't have 800,000 jobs posted, 1 million folks unemployed. You know, we're eliminating that in a sense. And so just outreach is huge under that particular area. And so the second, on promoting middle skills internships, there's also something called minternships as well. And so just got a number of different ships that are out there that I encourage you guys to really look at all of the opportunities that are there, because what that does is it provides individuals with opportunities to go fill some of those jobs that we're going to be making known in a big way. And then lastly, Mary, on the Skills Development Fund workforce, I like the fact that you're talking about being nimble, being flexible, being creative, and that's what it's going to take in order for us to continue to eliminate the skills gap. And so I encourage work in that area wherever we can move the needle or do something that's conducive to and that's relevant, then we take every advantage and opportunity to do just that. But good work, good report, and fueling the Texas economy. I love it.
Thank you. Great stuff. Glad this is going to be a regular feature at our commission meetings. I think it adds a lot to the conversation on middle skills gap. If I could get you guys to do me a huge favor, though, schedule some time in my office. I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about kind of the roadmap for what you've got here relative to what the commission asked for on June 30th. And then I need an update on when that funding package is going to get brought forward in its entirety, so we can get moving on some things that were in there. They're touched on in your chart here. I just want to see how those all mesh up. So if you'd be so kind as to schedule some time for me to do that, we can explore this in a little further detail, and I won't do it today and belabor what was a really good presentation. So if we could do that, that'd be awesome, and I think we can get a lot done in that regard. Other questions or comments?
None here, Chairman.
None.
Is there any other business come before the commission?
I have a few items real quick. Virtual reality was mentioned, and that's not for you guys' excuse or whatever, but Commissioner Alvarez, just congratulations on moving that. I know years ago we were talking about virtual reality and making that happen, and so seeing that take place is huge. Chairman, I loved your commercial this week, or the talking deals that are out there, and so, I mean, it's good work in that regard. As it gets the word out, I'll share with you, it's in my mind or whatever. Childcare, we have childcare. We have all these things that are available, and so just appreciate what you guys continue to do to really push the word out there. I have a new employee on board, Jaku John. He's a new attorney. Jaku, if you'd stand. He's our new attorney, UNT Law School, and actually has worked on some cases before and the like, and so we're glad to have him as a part of the team. He replaces Belisa Chapa, who's gone. Les stole away. Les and Susanna, I'll blame them forever with that, but glad to have Jaku here. We have a child care virtual town hall meeting this afternoon, over 300, and there may be higher individuals that will be participating in that, employment law essentials, and so any questions that those in the child care space have, they'll be in a position to answer those questions, and we'll be doing that at 2 o'clock. And if you are interested in attending that, make sure we get with the team to let you guys know that that's happening. And I think with that, I thank you guys again for the state agency interns deal, where Governor Abbott had an opportunity to recognize state agencies that are actually hiring interns during this pandemic. It's so important that employers on the state agency side and the private sector are actually taking advantage of utilizing those interns to fill their talented pipeline. So thank you guys for the participation.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Commissioner.
Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Chairman, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
So moved and seconded to adjourn. We're adjourned.